So, Daniel, this year we are having a focus on nature, and it's called Nature First. So, there's a number of policies we're issuing at East Suffolk and launching. And so, last year we trialled basically, pardon the weeds, we're feeding the bees, which is finding land that East Suffolk owns that we can cut less, as simple as that. And the reasoning behind that is because insects, pollinators are falling away. We have lost 97% of our wildflower meadows from the 1930s. Not only that, as I mentioned earlier, farmers are changing their farming techniques and eliminating those strips of wildflowers and wild undergrowth. And then also planning has allowed, and this is planning through national government's legislation, smaller back gardens in new developments. So all these areas, there's a removal of where wildflowers can germinate and establish. So I just feel we need to do something. And so I looked at the land that East Suffolk owns and just said, right, let's start cutting less. And we were lucky in the way that this is a positive out of COVID, because we were restricting the use of our Norse operatives of cutting the grass and limiting our services over the lockdown, is that actually people suddenly realised less cutting of grass is a real positive, and all these flowers appeared, and then the insects and the bird life. And that engagement with nature is something really important for all of us as humans. And so by taking that sort of engagement, we built on that. Last year we had 40 sites, and then this year we have 100. So ultimately what I'm trying to develop is a corridor of wild areas across East Suffolk. So if you're a bee, you could fly from Felixstowe right up to Lowestoft. So that's my ultimate ambition. And so by less cutting, it doesn't mean we're cutting back on costs, not at all. And some people think it's a cost-saving exercise. It certainly isn't. And we're getting over that hurdle. In the 50s and 60s, the perception of a good council is a council that cuts the grass to an inch of its life, and it's all very regimented. The concept of a good council now is a council that lets the grass grow, there's wildflowers, and we embrace nature in a way that we actually haven't done this before. And part of the Weeds Feeding the Bees signage. We have a yellow sign that people see in areas. And this explains to individuals that East Suffolk as a district council are part of the solution as much as you are as an individual. And we are also trying to do something. So if we can do it as a district council, well, you as an individual at home can also do something. So it's really important to get the message across. It's important to get that message of education of why we're not cutting this grass in the particular area, because it's as simple as that. We are feeding the bees by not cutting the grass and allowing the insects to make the grass area their homes. So it's been a real positive, and that's my flagship policy at East Suffolk that is really making a lot of difference, and I get a lot of positive feedback, and people have really embraced this policy. We've expanded that as well through churchyards and cemeteries. We don't own many of them, but there are a number, I think 25, that we maintain in East Suffolk. So what we did is looked at the cemeteries and worked out that, in fact, on the periphery and the rural older graves that aren't visited, these are perfect areas to let the grass grow. And we give access to these graves that are visited by family and relatives and visitors. But the areas that aren't visited, it's a perfect place for the nature to establish itself, and they become little pocket nature reserves, often in urban areas. It's a mini Minsmere in your back garden, and it's great. And there's something slightly poetic in that sense of death in a graveyard, yet giving life to the fundamental insects and the engagement that nature has for visitors to the church. So I'm really pleased as a logical extension, we're cutting less in graveyards and the cemeteries. And then finally, as a flagship policy, we're reducing the glyphosate spraying by 45% this year. This is really important because glyphosate is sprayed basically on posts and around pillars and structures in the ground. And of course, this is the perfect habitat for bumblebees that nest down because they think it's the base of a tree trunk. And by doing that, by spraying, it just kills any insect and anything that might be hibernating or making their home around the base of a post as such. So I'm really pleased that we've managed to reduce that. And I'm testing now a system which is foam. So I think foam works by suffocating the weeds.
Yeah.
So although councils have used glyphosate in the past because it's a one application, then they don't need to do anything. But I feel, even if we have to go and use the foam twice through the year, that is a better way of dealing with the weeds and controlling. I'm not a big fan of chemicals, and it just feels wrong in so many ways. So I'm really happy about this, and I'm really pleased, and hopefully by the end of a couple of years, we might be able to eliminate it completely. That's the ultimate ambition, but we're reducing it absolutely as much as we possibly can going forward.